The war ended with silence. For 3 years, the sky above the colony world of Arcanes had burned with the light of orbital cannons and alien warships. Cities were reduced to glass deserts. Mountains were carved open by energy strikes. Humanity's survival had balanced on a blade's edge. And somehow, I had helped end it. My name is Daniel Hale. Before the war, I had been nothing more than a logistics officer stationed on a remote research outpost. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't a hero. But fate doesn't ask for your qualifications. It simply throws you into the fire. And now, as the massive doors of the alien palace slowly opened before me, I realized that sometimes the end of the fire was even more terrifying than the battle itself. The palace of the Zyrathian Empire was carved from living crystal. Its towering pillars shimmered with soft blue light, reflecting the stars beyond the transparent dome overhead. Alien guards stood motionless along the hallways, tall figures clad in elegant armor that looked more ceremonial than practical. Their glowing violet eyes followed my every step. I was the only human in the entire structure. At the end of the great hall sat the ruler of the empire, the alien queen, Queen Lysera of the Zyrathians. She was nothing like the monsters our war propaganda had described. Instead of claws and fangs, she possessed an otherworldly beauty that made the entire chamber seem dim in comparison. Her silver hair flowed like liquid starlight over her shoulders. Her skin carried a faint blue glow, and delicate patterns of light moved beneath it like slow lightning. Her eyes were bright violet, ancient, powerful, and as I approached the throne, those eyes settled on me with an intensity that made my heartbeat quicken. The entire room fell silent. Then she spoke. Daniel Hale. Her voice echoed softly across the crystal hall. It wasn't loud, yet somehow every corner of the palace seemed to hear it. You stand before the throne of Zyrath. I swallowed and bowed awkwardly. Humans didn't exactly have a manual for alien royal etiquette. I appreciate the invitation, Your Majesty. A faint smile touched her lips. Invitation, she repeated softly. An interesting word for someone who ended a war. Behind me, dozens of alien nobles watched in absolute silence. I could feel their curiosity, and maybe their suspicion, because 3 weeks ago I had done something that changed the course of 2 civilizations. Something that wasn't supposed to happen. 3 weeks earlier, the human fleet had been seconds away from annihilation. The Zyrathian armada surrounded our remaining ships like wolves circling wounded prey. Their technology outmatched ours in every possible way. We were losing.
Badly.
But during a desperate retreat, my small transport vessel had intercepted a damaged Zyrathian command ship drifting through an asteroid field. And inside that ship, I found the Queen. Her royal vessel had been sabotaged during a political coup within her own empire. Half her crew was dead. The rest had abandoned her. And, without thinking, without understanding the consequences, I helped her. I repaired her navigation systems, protected her from the rebels who were hunting her, and delivered her safely back to her empire. What happened next shocked everyone. Instead of continuing the war, Queen Lysera immediately called for peace. The fighting stopped within hours. 2 civilizations that had been destroying each other suddenly stood at the edge of diplomacy instead of extinction. All because one exhausted human engineer had decided not to leave an alien queen to die alone in space. Now I stood before her throne, wondering what came next. Queen Lysera rose slowly. Her long gown shimmered like a piece of the night sky itself. She descended the steps of the throne with quiet grace, her gaze never leaving mine. The entire hall held its breath. When she finally stopped in front of me, she lifted one slender hand. A guard stepped forward carrying a small crystal chest. The lid opened, Inside rested a strange metallic object, smooth, silver, and pulsing faintly with energy. "This," the queen said, "is the reward promised to the one who saved my life." I blinked. "A reward? Among my people," she continued, "a life dead is sacred. When someone preserves the life of a Zyrathian royal, they are granted a gift equal to the value of that life." I stared at the object. "What does it do?" "It is a stellar key." The hall stirred with quiet murmurs. "It grants the bearer unrestricted access to the Zyrathian star network," the queen explained. "With it, you may travel to any world under my empire's protection." My jaw nearly hit the floor. The Zyrathian Empire controlled hundreds of star systems. "You're giving me the freedom to explore all of them?" "Yes." My brain struggled to process it. A few months ago, I had been managing cargo shipments. Now an alien queen was basically handing me the keys to half the galaxy. I accepted the device slowly. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Her smile deepened slightly, but then something changed. She leaned closer. The court couldn't hear her now. Only I could. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And yet, that is not the true reason I asked you here tonight." I blinked. "It isn't." Her violet eyes flickered with something mysterious. "No." My stomach tightened, because suddenly the entire ceremony felt like a distraction. "A reward was necessary," she continued softly. "But what I truly require is your help." "With what?" She glanced briefly toward the watching nobles. Then she stepped back. The ceremony ended soon after. Formal speeches were given. Alliances were discussed. But I barely heard any of it, because one thought kept circling my mind. Why would the most powerful ruler in the galaxy need help from me? Hours later, a quiet escort led me to a private balcony overlooking the glowing city of Zyrith Prime. Twin moons hung in the sky. The alien architecture stretched across the horizon like a sea of crystal towers. And there she was. Queen Lysera stood alone near the railing, waiting. When she heard my footsteps, she turned. "You came." "You asked," I replied. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable, just heavy with questions. Finally, I asked, "What's the secret you mentioned earlier?" She studied my face carefully. "As you know," she began, "my command ship was sabotaged by members of my own government." "The coup you mentioned?" "Yes." She looked out over the city. "They believed I had grown too sympathetic toward humanity." I frowned. "That seems like a weird reason to start a civil war." "To them, it was necessary," she replied calmly. "Many of my people believe humans are primitive, dangerous, and unworthy of cooperation." "Yeah, we've heard that one before." "But they underestimated something," she continued. "What?" Her gaze returned to me. "They underestimated my resolve." The wind moved gently through her silver hair. "The rebellion is not finished," she said quietly. My heart skipped. "Wait, you mean the people who tried to kill you are still out there?" "Yes." "And your empire knows about this?" "Only a few trusted individuals." I crossed my arms. "Okay, now I'm confused. Why tell me?" She stepped closer. "Because you are not part of my empire." "That's true. You have no loyalty to my political factions. No history within our conflicts." I began to see where this was going. "You want a neutral outsider?" "Yes." "And you picked me." Her eyes softened. "I picked you because you saved my life when you had nothing to gain." That was hard to argue with. "What exactly do you want me to do?" She reached into a small container beside her and removed a thin holographic disc. When she activated it, a map of space appeared between us. Several star systems blinked red. These are the locations where rebel forces have secretly gathered. Hidden fleets. Yes. And you want me to what? Spy on them? Investigate them? I raised an eyebrow. That sounds like spying. A faint smile touched her lips again. Perhaps. I looked at the map carefully. Why not send your own agents? Because if the rebels detect Imperial forces approaching, they will scatter and disappear. But if a random human pilot shows up, they will not consider you a threat. I scratched my chin. So, basically I'm bait. Her expression became serious. Your hope. I laughed softly. That's a lot of pressure. The map vanished. Then she surprised me again. You would not be alone. Oh. She tapped a control on her wrist. A nearby door slid open, and a tall armored figure stepped onto the balcony. At first I thought it was another guard. Then the helmet retracted, revealing a familiar face. Commander Eris. She had been the officer who helped me rescue the Queen during the sabotage incident. Her sharp golden eyes met mine. Hello again, human. I grinned. Didn't expect to see you here. Her Majesty requested my presence. The Queen folded her hands. Commander Eris will accompany you. Bodyguard, I asked. Advisor, Eris corrected. I looked between them. So, you're sending a human engineer and one alien commander to uncover a galactic conspiracy? Lysera nodded calmly. Yes. I shook my head slowly. You realize this sounds like the beginning of a very bad plan. Eris smirked. Or a very interesting one. I thought about it. About the war. About the chance to prevent another one. Finally, I sighed. All right, I'm in. The Queen's eyes brightened. Then our future may yet change. I held up the stellar key she'd given me earlier. Guess this thing is coming in handy already. Yes, she said softly. For a moment the wind carried silence between us again. Then she stepped closer one last time. Daniel. Yeah, be careful tonight. Tonight? She nodded. Your mission begins sooner than you think. Behind us, alarms suddenly echoed across the palace. Red lights ignited across the skyline. Commander Eris cursed under her breath. They've started already. I stared at the sky. Because far above the city, unidentified warships were emerging from hyperspace. Queen Lysera's expression hardened. The rebels have come. Eris activated her armor. Your Majesty, we must evacuate you immediately. But the Queen didn't move. Instead, she looked at me, her voice calm, determined. This is why I needed you. I clenched the stellar key in my hand. The war might have ended, but something far bigger had just begun. And tonight's secret? It wasn't just a mission. It was the beginning of a new alliance between humanity and an alien empire. One that might decide the fate of the entire galaxy. And somehow, I was right in the middle of it.